There can be serious consequences of not diligently monitoring and addressing conversations being held online about your brand. For instance, a false report on the internet about the apparent heart attack of Apple CEO Steve Jobs allegedly saw the company shed R100 billion off its share price. Tim Shier, Managing Director of BrandsEye, joins us from Cape Town. Welcome, Tim. So what can actually damage a brand?
Well, the simple answer is absolutely everything, which is, I suppose, good and bad. What we're finding is that consumers are increasingly having an impact on reputation, and they're often getting the information from press, and it becomes a cyclic system that exists.
So how can a company go about managing their reputation actually online?
Well, we talk about online reputation management in sort of two different parts. We've got active reputation management and passive reputation management. Now, active reputation management is the process of understanding what are people saying about your brand, engaging with that conversation and trying to direct it in a way which serves your business strategy, if you will. Passive reputation management, on the other hand, is looking at it as a market research tool and making business changes directly so that you alleviate the stress and the strain that's on the reputation.
You head up quite a big brand, powerful brand. So when it comes to reputational damage and handling that, what are your thoughts on that? How would you go about it?
Well, I guess the first question I have is how much of it is do you always have to have an always-on conversation? Is this something that you can take on in campaigns and spurts and bursts, or do you always have to be there? And do different mediums have different needs? I think we look at it by trying to be true to the brand in everything we do, and when negativity comes, you keep pushing your message, your voice, and hopefully the audiences out there will see your voice in a constructive way.
Tim, there are certain steps that need to be followed. How do you know that you have saved your brand once those steps have been taken?
It's a very difficult question, really. So there's sort of 9-10 steps that one needs to follow, and based on how consumers or how quickly consumers quieten down about whatever the reputation is about is a good indication. Looking at how much it's still inside the press and what the sort of momentum is around the conversation in that space, as well as the sentiment distribution and how positive or how negative is the conversation, are all very good indicators of how quickly the reputation is being resolved.
There's a few case studies. Please take us through specifically the Steve Jobs scenario.
Okay, so probably about a year and a half ago, there was a blog post written on a very credible site, and what happened was they basically said, falsely I must add, that Steve Jobs had had a heart attack and had died. Within the following 11 minutes, their share price dropped by 10%, so it dropped from about $105 per unit down to about 96, and there was widespread conversation online about it. It got a lot of momentum, and they lost approximately R100 billion in the process in about 11 minutes.
Isn't that not the problem with social media, or the flaw maybe in social media, Caleb? Because there's no
referee.
Yes.
It's always happening.
It's open for everybody.
I think what you have to do is you have to participate in order. You have to have your Twitter feed. Completely. You have your blog.
But it's not restricted.
Well, it's not restricted, but I think you have to drive a place of authenticity that rather than people believing what's out there on the blog, you have to be there with your own voice. You can't hide your head in the sand. You have to be speaking to the community, whether they're on Facebook or Twitter or wherever they are on the web. You have to be out there communicating to people.
Then there was another scenario or another case study of a South African company that you wanted to share with us.
Yeah, absolutely. There was towards the end of 2008, there was a scenario with a gentleman by the name of Don Edwards received rather bad service from a company called Quantification Club, and what he decided to do was go online and blog about it. In response, they worked out that his blog post cost him 200,000 rands worth of business. So they issued him with lawyers' letters for defamation, and a whole sort of stink effectively kicked itself up. In response to the legal action, there were 127, and we were monitoring it at the time using our software. There were 127 different conversations of equal influence and of equal sentiment, and it caused a huge amount of conversation in the online space, a lot of buzz, a lot of negativity towards the brand. And as a consequence, we worked out that very approximately, that they lost approximately about 27 million rands worth of business.
So what other mediums can be used to actually track such activity on the web?
Okay, well, There's two types of ways of really doing it. You can do it manually, so you can use good old Google, you can use Google Alerts, and then all the way through to through services like ourselves, where we'll then monitor the conversation that's taking place online, provide various metrics around it, so you can look at what is the value of that coverage in terms of an AVE value, what is the reputation towards the brand. Off the back of that, you can then start measuring it and engaging with the conversation in terms of managing it to bring it back on in terms of what you're trying to achieve. And then the final step is looking at maximizing the conversation to get the most out of it in terms of business intelligence and business insight to make decisions on a strategic level.